welcome back to the class, everyone. If you've been paying any attention to the Galaxy of Heroes forums, you'll know that CG has currently let us know that they are assessing the overall raid and looking at some possible changes. Well, in order for us to view this correctly, I brought on someone who spent countless hours in the raid and has made a video or two you might have seen. And that person is none other than Scribe. Scribe, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Calvin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay, all things considered. I'm not really ready to get out the pitchforks and everything and whatnot, but I will say that I am slightly concerned about the notification that CG sent our way in regards to the new raid. So as you know, you've been brought here to specifically talk about those things. And to do this in an organized manner, we're just going to go down the line. So the first thing, and probably the most important thing that I want to get your opinion on, is undersized teams. So CG has made a comment, and I originally thought that they were just going to pick on the current dark side clone split, but their exact verbiage is undersized teams get penalized for bringing in less than 5 characters in an attempt. The team is evaluated where the current penalty is reflective of the balance expectation. What do you think?
Yeah, this one is, well, one thing, it makes me look a little bit foolish, CG, so thank you very much, because I put out a video yesterday saying, don't worry, guys, CG won't nerf the teams in the raid, and then they post this, and I'm like, okay, cool, I've got egg on my chin. Yeah, it makes me a little bit nervous. It doesn't specifically say, we are looking at Tarkin SWGOH, we are looking at, the trio team of Apo, CX2 and Disguised Clone Trooper. It's not saying any teams in particular, because we have a lot of undersized teams. You've got the Keller and Beck team, you've got the Mace Windu team, you've got 2 clone teams essentially, right? And obviously the lower tier ones. So I don't think anybody has anything to worry about on those tier 0 teams, like the Nest and the Hondo and early Tarkin. It makes me nervous at the top end around how the player base is going to react if CG decides to take away the toys of people who in particular have wailed on essentially 4 new marquee clones and taken them to Relic 9, which is no small level of investment. I don't think it would be in CG's best interest to say, we don't want Tarkin duoing the raid with SWGOH. We do not want the player base to use this trio team of clones, which granted only works, to my knowledge, on the tier 7, the top tier at Relic 9, because of the modifier, right? So you're telling players to ignore the large investment that they've made in brand new marquees and a substantial amount of Relic levels and a difficult team that requires good modding and good RNG. Like, I think it's a bad idea if they focus on that side of things.
Well, and what scares
What's your opinion about? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say what scares me the most about it is I didn't necessarily expect a nerf, but I always thought that it was on the table because it's very clear that specific composition is outside of what CG even remotely expected, because those characters were meant to be on the same team. Like, we don't have 2 leaderships allowed in the raid for that reason. That being said, what scares me is, like, with Mace, Windu, and Keller and Beck, I mean, I think you already said it, those are also undersizing at both Relic 8 and Relic 9 levels. And the investment there is also really big. So what I'm worried about is someone will say, hey, I was under the impression if I took Mace, Depa, and TG all the way up to R9, that I would get all these rewards from it without having to do 2 extra. And now it's kind of being taken away. If this goes through, it would be taken away from them.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit more concerned that is the route that CG take. And they're saying, we don't want you to be undermanning with Mace and with Keller and Beck. And the only reason I think maybe they might do that is because, one, Keller and Beck, I know he's only doing it with Jocastanu, who's a conquest unit, right? So there's still a level of exclusivity there that certain players won't be able to unlock, right? But he's also quite an old character. He's part of an important unlock in Bo-Katan Mandalore, which a lot of players want to get, not only because she's good, but also because it'll help guilds unlock Mandalore in territory battles, which provides a lot of recurring sources of Chirotech to a guild every 2 weeks, right? So quite a popular character that doesn't necessarily need a full team of high investment, really good, brand new Jedi Vanguard. I wouldn't be surprised per se if they nerf Beck in particular rather than Mace. I'm hoping they don't nerf Mace. Mace is a brand new legendary, and the only people that have got him so far are those that have essentially wailed on 6 brand new marquees and took them to a minimum of Relic 5. It would feel very punitive towards the player base to be like, no, we're taking away your toys. You can't have that. Like, am I worried it might happen? Yeah, I am a little bit now.
Yeah,
if they didn't say anything.
Especially with Mace, I see the penalty they already put in place for undersizing. Like, that's already a challenge. That adds extra not necessarily RNG, but it takes away margin where if you do get bad RNG, then it's going to be actively working against you. So it's not like these teams are necessarily free from a playthrough perspective. Like there are modding, there are Zetas, there is a wrong second and a wrong third. To your point on Keller on Beck, Jocasta is what is allowing a lot of that interaction. But so I think we're kind of on the same page that pretty much the less they mess with it, probably the better. We'll talk about Keller on Beck again at stage 5. I do want to get your opinion on that as well. But moving on to the second point. It says Disguised Clone Trooper's clever ruse does not grant 20% turn meter at the proper time. It seems to be impacting both sides. Do you think this is going to affect any run at all?
I don't actually know because I'm not sure. I haven't even looked into this bug. This is the first I've heard of it. Do you know what the actual interaction is there on the 20%
I don't offhand of when he's supposed to be gaining 20% turn meter.
Yeah, so all I'm hoping is that I know they're saying they're going to do in-depth investigation before doing things. Is they've got to be very careful because this is going to disproportionately affect us more than help us, if you know what I mean. Yeah, we only get to use our clone trooper once, our disguised clone trooper once, but every single team that we take in this raid will have the enemy 2 disguised clone troopers. So that could, if they mess with that too much, that's going to essentially cause a complete rebalance potentially of all of the teams that we use. So I hope they take their time with this one, and probably I hope they tackle this last when we look at all the points that we go through, particularly if we're looking at, well, no, I'll let us get to it, but given that they are considering a bunch of different balance changes and potential fixes to teams, I hope they take the time with this one to do it properly and test it with all the teams, and I hope they do it at the end, because it could really mess things up, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you, especially if they do. Also, a lot of these are cumulative, right? Like, okay, you can't undersize now, or let's say there's a bigger penalty for undersizing, and then on top of that, maybe, again, I don't know the kit well enough, so this is hard to say, but maybe that fix alone actually ruins a lot of the undersize. Probably not the case, but you don't really know. To the same,
like you said, these underman teams, they rely on quite thin margins sometimes. So it can just be, oh, they took 1 extra turn, but that means you've lost your first Jedi that you're trying to save. Or it can mean, oh, I didn't quite do enough damage there, and you can't kill Fox in time, and the whole run is over. So yeah, they've got to be very careful on this.
So the third point, it's very similar to the second. It says damage over time stacks from Disguised Clone Trooper triggering whenever the unit performs an ability instead of at the start of his turn. This really seems like it would change nothing to me. Am I wrong?
I think what happens here is, correct me if I'm wrong, Calvin, but using an ability isn't necessarily during their turn. So I think that your clones, your allies, can actually get hurt by dots when they're called to assist, for example. Now, is that a massive deal? No. And if it gets fixed, it's only going to be a benefit to the player base. So because we can't put dots on the enemy team, really. So
yeah, it's essentially a reverse effect of what you said. Even if we could, they have it 5 times, and yeah, if they're getting called to assist by one of the other clones. Okay, yeah, because it doesn't say on their turn. So okay, that could actually be forced. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking of, Keller and Beck's mass assist could cause a bunch of dots, and sometimes it's like, you'll have a unit that's in red health and immediately just takes that damage at that wrong opportune moment, and you lose him before he takes a turn. It's like, irritating. But I think this one is actually just a net gain for us if they fix it.
That makes sense. So the next one is them telling us that they're going to be modifying or monitoring like pirate modifiers and whatnot. So the one thing that I want to ask you, and I've heard this from a few people, and I actually I don't agree. When a lot of people saw there could be possible nerfs to the current teams that exist, their immediate like gut reaction was, "Oh, CG doesn't like the teams we've made. They want us to be buying the pirate teams." And to me, that argument doesn't really make sense, because if there are changes specifically with the undersizing of teams, these all should still work, if not better, arguably, once we add in more members. So it's not really, we're not really being pushed to farm pirates, at least in this regard. We're more so being told that, hey, you don't really need 3 Relic 9s, you need 5. You can't leave your Ayla or whoever on the bench when you run Mace. You have to build all these up if you want that score.
Yeah, I completely agree. This in isolation does not force people to farm pirates, right? If the guild wants to get max box, everybody in the guild needs to score 10.4 million points apiece, right?
Yep.
If you divide that by 4 teams, so let's ignore a 5th team entirely, right? Just run 4 teams.
Without the split.
Exactly. Without the split, yeah. Or technically we do, because we could still run like a solo Nest or a solo Hondo and get 300k. I know it's not a lot, but all you would need to do is have 4 teams scoring 2.6 million, and from everybody in the guild on average. So no Relic 9s, just all Relic 8 teams, let's say, and you will hit the max box with a team to spare. So if you throw on everybody also does a solo team with Nest or Hondo or whatever, then everybody is going to be well within their capabilities of maxing the guild box, not necessarily the personal raid box. That's different. And in my opinion, the top tier personal raid box isn't really worth pushing for. It's an extra 110 Mark III. Is it nice to have? Yes. Does it pay off a whole other team at Relic 8, Relic 9? I don't know. Maybe you're better at that sort of thing than I am, I'll be honest. But it doesn't feel it on a surface level. So I don't think it necessarily forces people to go down the pirate route. And I think CG would be better served in trying to increase or provide us with a box above what we currently have in both personal and guild boxes. If they really wanted people to invest in pirates, they have to make a box that extends beyond what we have now with additional rewards and make it almost outlandishly high. So I think current max box for guilds is like 520 million GP, right? They need to do, well, they don't need to. They could theoretically do a box beyond that that's like 750 million, 800 million, and a personal box that's like 16 million, only possible by running 6 teams, let's say, including pirates. Now, that 6th team, CG could code it in such a way that it can only be the new pirates or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know how flexible their coding is. If that's the route they wanted to take, they could do it in that manner, and that would be a better incentive for people to invest. As it stands, they don't have to. People don't have to. You can just focus on what we've got now. But it is a bit weird. It is a bit weird.
You might have stumbled into and I don't think they'll do this because this actually sounds like a lot more work, but I think you just kind of stumbled into the best solution for all of this. The best solution is make an extra reward for either personal, guild, or both, and then make a new tier. And that tier is still for Relic 9, but you have to be fully staffed, so to speak. And it would be harder to still present a challenge, but then CG can kind of get what they want in the sense of you're not allowed to undersize in that one at all, so they don't ruin past expectations, but they're still offering something for what they want. They did not want you to be able to max your box with, I think I counted, you can do it with as little as 11 Relic 9s. You can have like 14 million. So not even rewards, but like max score or whatever. You can get way above it. So that, I don't know. Maybe that's something we can talk to Meathead about, but it would involve a lot more work for them. They would have to do an entirely new tier.
Yeah. We're getting into the realms of complex stuff. And we're not coders.
No.
I've never programmed anything in my life. It might sound super easy to us as lay people, but it's probably a lot more complex than that when you lift the hood of the game, I guess. And they've probably just spent the last 9 months at least working on this raid. They don't want to go around fishing in the guts, I'm sure.
All right, so moving on to some of our last questions, and we already alluded to this one, actually. Keller on Beck, and this one confuses me a little bit, so I definitely want your opinion here. They say that they've observed that he's performing exceptionally well under certain circumstances, which I'm guessing that just means with Jocasta, which is interesting because he does well even without her. Like, I've seen people maxing the Relic 7 tier, no Jocasta.
Oh, nice.
Nice. That being said, the only problem I can think of with Mace is the fact that he's undersizing. Like, do you think CG really has a problem that Keller on Beck and Jocasta can max out a tier fully staffed?
I have to. It's weird because you'd think if that was the problem, it would be joint with the first statement, and they made it about undersizing, right? Because it's weird in concept. To me, I don't understand the general concept of, hey, you've got a full team at Relic 5. Let's assume you've modded them well, and let's assume you know how to play the raid well. I don't understand the concept of that team shouldn't be able to max score. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I feel like if you've made the investment and you're doing the right things, you're modding it correctly, you understand the mechanics of the raid, and you're playing it correctly, you should be able to score maximum points and win. Jobs are good. Like, who cares about not? You know, I don't want to get 1 million instead of 1.2. I want to get 1.2 million because that's the tier that I'm at, right? So I have to believe that this only pertains to undermans unless they're saying we only want Keller and Beck to be able to score max points if you are using both Jocasta and a full team. And that just it seems very strange to me because it like why would they want to particularly diminish a team in any way for this particular scenario? It just seems strange and it's quite vague. Performing exceptionally well under certain circumstances, like what circumstances? Tell us.
The only thing that I can think of, and I don't like this, by the way, is that their original intention was for Keller on Beck to be kind of a crappy leader, and they wanted Mace Windu to have his full-fledged team, so, you know, his two requirements, Ayla along with Jocasta, and that would be taken. And then really, Beck was just going to be a placeholder to be eventually taken by pirates. And now I think they're a little bit thrown off that, and I 100% agree with you. If they put a team in the raid, and we level it up, we learn how to use it, we mod it correctly, and it maxes, that should be completely fair game. Like, I see no reason why. I mean, it's not even an exploit, really. You're using especially if you're using a full team. So I understand a little bit some of the undersizing stuff. Just completely nerfing a character that's doing better because it wasn't tested, and like a very small box, by the way. I get like PvP testing is a lot harder because we just have hundreds and hundreds of characters. There's not that many characters allowed in the raid.
No. And it's like I said, it's a controlled environment, isn't it? It's not like anything's changing fight to fight. They don't have to worry about different datacron setups. They don't have to worry about different comps. It's like, this is the raid. This is the defined mechanics we have, and these are the very few select characters you can use. So, yeah, it's a bit weird. I'm not sure what they're trying to reach at here. I have to assume it's just an undersized Keller and Beck with Jocasta. But maybe it's supposed to be taken in the context of, by the way, we wanted you to run a full team with Mace. And I'm not really on board with that either.
No, yeah. I think we're on the same page again.
The thing is, Calvin, is if we look at the past raids, we've always had undermans. Every raid has had undermans. Like since Crate Dragon. It's like we've always had them. They've always been there. Like, why now change tack? Is it because of the volume of undermans? I don't know.
Well, and I think they kind of had the opportunity to do this, and they did, and it wasn't enough. And I that's on them. Like, that's, and I understand it. Like, when I saw that Lord Vader has reduced stacks of execute whenever you have less, I looked at that and I'm like, okay, you got us. You didn't like that. You made an adjustment. Fair game. But yeah, going back now, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, so number 6 on our list is Captain Athano is getting a buff to his leadership. I don't really have any thoughts about that. Do you?
No, I mean, I don't. I make it a point of not investing time into learning new kits until I've got them in a playable state. And let's be realistic. Captain Athano doesn't even have his team right now.
Correct.
You could throw him in. He's
right.
not going to do much with Hondo and Sana, for God's sake, is he? So let's wait until we've got Quiggold. Let's wait until we've got Kix. And then we can think that's when I decide to learn a team. So I've heard through the grapevine that Captain Athano isn't really doing anything. I'm not surprised that he's not doing anything. If they want to try and buff it to make this early game here work a little bit better, maybe they decided to take in the new marquees at 5-star gear 11 and it can't clear the 300 tier. Maybe they've done that bit of testing and they're like, oh, maybe we need to do a little bit of buffing up here for Captain Athano. Like, very niche scenario there.
Yeah. So number 7 is in regards to another raid bug. This one, it doesn't seem player friendly, but at the same time, I think it might just not do anything. It's 1 stack of execute is not being removed from Vader when the targeted enemy has at least 1 buff, specifically on Fox. Yeah. Fox is dead usually, like right in the beginning. That's his whole thing, is he has to die immediately, or you just restart.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the point I was going to try and make here, is that usually the run... no, absolutely not. It just shows we're on the same wavelength here. Usually, most runs are dependent on defeating Fox before he's taken a turn.
Yep.
And if it's not before he's taken a turn, it's maybe after he takes 2. So, I don't think this one's going to be a material change, personally.
Okay, yeah.
Like, fix it by all means, but I don't think it's a material change. Maybe I'll eat my words on that one.
And last one, this is one we were already privy to, and I think there was a chance that this didn't actually go through. And, props to all of us, I guess, the entire community. After how well we've done on the entire raid, Bad Batch is almost definitely getting nerfed now. Like, that modifier they were allowed to use below Relic 9, I'm guessing that does not get to stay.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't think it should. We're getting a bonus that shouldn't be applied at that tier. I think it's fine to remove it, but this is sort of calling back to what I was saying before about, what is it, 0.2, 0.3? Yes, 0.2, yeah. Where we're talking about Disguised Clone Trooper and the TM boosts that he's providing. Please, after you fix the Bad Batch modifier, you've taken that away, thoroughly test the raid to make sure that the Bad Batch, as we said before, at Relic 5 with good mods and strategy, can still comfortably beat the Relic 5 tier, and then see what happens when you change Disguised Clone Trooper. Because I'm hearing that Bad Batch is the most nuanced and difficult team to actually score max points on. I haven't had much testing with Bad Batch. I took mine in at R7. I finished it first time, but I was fumbling my way through. I didn't really learn their strategy and approach. I just hope that CG tests this appropriately, because I'm hearing a lot of people being worried about Bad Batch in particular.
Well,
have you tested? I don't really know.
I've done. It's actually the team that I've done the most testing on, and
good.
They actually do. I can't speak to Relic 8, which I think is where they're going to struggle most, both before and after the nerf. But at Relic 7, they are nuanced, but not because of the raid, because the team is nuanced. The whole target practice mechanic and whatnot, that completely treks over just from their kits, and it is a little bit hard to understand. It makes the irregular things really irregular. But the biggest problem is the strategy heavily relies on both Hunter as well as Batcher marking Fox in order to kill him. And there are ways that you can... I've practiced a little bit. There are ways that you can have Hunter go first, get the mark out, and then the stealth goes away, and then you can come in again. But it's going to add a whole other layer of complexity if they go through with it. So I'm not super excited about that, and I really think that specifically the R7 and the R8 tiers are going to be in danger. R5, at least in the current circumstances, if you're doing everything right, it's hard to lose. I went either 5 for 5 or 10 for 10 on the R5 tier once I had the strategy down. It gets harder when you get in the 7 and the 8s.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I did one run at R5, and then I took them all to R7, and I just did one run at R7. But like I said, I don't know how the team works. I have not played with them in any game mode, because I'd literally finished farming them right as the raid started. So I was just like, I'll take them all to Relic 5, then all to Relic 7. And I just took the same approach of, I want to defeat Fox first. I then want to try and get rid of Apo at a reasonable time and just clear all the clones. So I was just fumbling my way through it. Good mods, granted. I did remod the team I just chose to do a lot of offense and speed. And it wasn't really an issue, but I was definitely had no idea what I was doing. So I don't know how heavily I was carried by that additional, Relic 9 modifier that we were getting.
All right. Well, Scribe, thank you very much for your time. I think we accomplished a whole lot here. Would you like to tell anyone anything before we head out?
Only that I'm incredibly jealous of your full head of hair.
Oh my. Well, you
Thanks for having
rock
me on,
your
Cal.
look
It's been
very,
great.
very well, Scribe.
I try my best.
Yes, All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you, Scribe. Until the next time, stay awesome.